the Latina Leadership Podcast, the podcast made for Latinas by Latinas. Get comfortable, amiga, and enjoy the conversations.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Latina Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Anjelica. On this episode, we have an amazing guest, per usual. You know how we do here on this podcast. You know we bring amazing conversations on here to this platform specifically. Today's episode, we have Lillian. So, as always, I can introduce you because I do have your bio. I have like all your credentials and all the things that you do. But I do no justice if I introduce you. So please tell the audience who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so it's Lillian Morales-Laster. My current role is I'm the executive director of a nonprofit organization here in Central Ohio called Empowering Latinas Leadership Academy, also known as a.k.a., which means she, her. You know, we were super witty when we decided to come up with that. But so I do that. I've been their executive director. This will be my third year. And before that, I did program directing for them. And before that, I was a mentee. So about I feel like 7 or 8 years ago, I went through the program myself as a mentee. And then I just kind of loved it and I've never left. Besides that, I do hold a full-time job. I'm a human resources director for a local bank. And then because I do the most, I sit on a couple of boards here in Columbus. And I also own my own online store where I sell crochet items. And I also hold monthly meetups here in Central Ohio for crafters, knitters and crocheters. So, and then I'm a mom of 5 kids and a grandma of 2. So
you really do everything.
The most, constantly.
You know, as Latinas, we tend to, once we get going, it's hard to stop because the sky is the limit. So let's get in a little bit into a.k.a. for a little bit before I jump into like what you do, your day-to-day, your 9 to 5 type of situation. Mm-hmm. So a.k.a., how long has a.k.a. been around for the Ohio community?
So we just celebrated our quince this year.
Congrats.
We had a huge quinceañera as per usual, because why not? And so, 15 years. The program originally started as a program through the Hispanic Chamber of Columbus. Mm-hmm. The original thought process was to help local Latinas entrepreneurs kind of navigate through what it looks like to be an entrepreneur here in Central Ohio, and then have them feed into the Hispanic Chamber. I believe 1 or 2 years into it, the program just kind of morphed based on what they felt the community needed. And what was needed was a professional development, an area for women to come into spaces to learn how to navigate what it's like to be a professional Latina in Central Ohio. So about 15 years, yeah. So
what exactly, because you say leadership, what kind of leadership?
Yeah, I like to tell women that first of all, as Latinas, and second of all, as women, we're leaders in all the spaces that we take up. I mean, whether it's soccer mom or PTO mom or the eldest of your family. I just talked to someone today about being the oldest of 4 and automatically being in charge and raising your siblings. I think in all spaces, women inherently just take on leadership roles. Mm-hmm. And I think we want to, acknowledge that leadership looks different for everybody. And also, but 2, our program is geared towards kind of like, if you can see her, you can be her. So showing women in our community that there are other women of color in leadership roles, whether they're directors, entrepreneurs, CEOs, whether they run nonprofits, or, whether they're just community activists, that type of leadership. I want to encourage women to kind of take ownership of what that leadership looks like for themselves individually.
I'm taking notes because I really like that quote. If you can see her, you can be her. Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love it, because I tried to explain to my husband a long time ago that, look, I didn't really get interested in science because I just seen a bunch of guys and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be more like those boring guys. But then when I went to college, I was like, science is pretty cool. Biology, wow. I mean, I still can't differentiate a mitochondria from I don't know what. I don't know like that stuff, but like I took interest in it,
Yeah.
right? And so I really, really like that. I really, really enjoy that concept. If you can see her, you can be her. Bueno.
Yeah, and I think it's really important here in Central Ohio because while we are growing in the Latino population, we're not as big of a Latino population as you would say California, Texas, or New York. So most of our women are in spaces where they're still the only Latinas. And sometimes it feels lonely to be in those corporate spaces where no one in leadership looks like you. And so our goal is to introduce the women in our program to other women who have climbed that corporate ladder or have carved out a niche for themselves so they know that it is possible and then there is a community behind them that's going to be able to support them.
So how has community building been for y'all there specifically, knowing and understanding that the demographics? How do y'all continue to want to bring in new faces, bring in those faces that maybe were reluctant or don't know how to navigate, or maybe they don't for whatever reason. You know, sometimes reasons come up. How has community building been for Ohio, for AYA specifically?
I've been with the organization for, like I said, 7 or 8 years. And in that time, I've seen a significant change in folks recognizing us as one of the leading organizations for Latinas, Latina professionals, and knowing that. So there's twofolds. One, I want to take away the excuse of companies saying, well, we can't find talented, diverse folks. Well, you know that we're here and you know that you can work with us to either, recruit some of the ladies who've went through the program, be partners, community partners. But I also think we have an amazing alumni program. Our ladies, I think once you go through this program, Columbus is big, but it's also small. It's just like a weird sense. Like once you're plugged in and you know what's going on in the community, you find other people in the room like, oh, you're a Latina and you were at AYA, or oh, I remember seeing you. And so I think that translates to women telling other people they know, like and then immediately. So our biggest recruit as far as getting people to come to our program and enroll is word of mouth. The women, like we've went through it. And I know we have a few women who are like, anytime I hear someone speaking Spanish, I'm like, oh, hey, hi, I'm Latina. And you need to know about these organizations and you need it. So I think it's like we're building the word of mouth. We're letting the women in our community know that there is spaces for them. And so I think we have absolutely no problems getting, especially younger women who are trying to find a space for themselves. We have no problems getting recruit mentees and mentors to sign up. So it's been really fun.
Thank you. I think building a community definitely is essential for any space that you want to bring into Latinas. So, talking about that, you've gone through the program yourself. You've done it. How long have you been in the role that you're in now with AYA?
So this will be my 3rd year as their executive director. Okay. The executive director before me has been appointed to city council here in Columbus as the first Latina ever to run in to be appointed in city council. So that was a really big deal for us, and the organization, the folks who were in charge, thought that I would be a great person to take over. Like I said, I went through the program and they couldn't shake me. I'm going to be here. they couldn't get rid of me. And they're like, you might as well just join us and do the things. So in this particular role as executive director, just going on my 3rd year, but then I was the program director for about.
Okay. How has that shift been for you?
It's interesting. I have before coming to AYA to work, I have absolutely zero experience in the nonprofit field, and it's hard work, especially here in Central Ohio and Columbus, to be a woman of color running a nonprofit getting people to understand your vision, getting people to donate. I think that's the hardest part of the job, uh, running the program and, getting speakers and just doing the cycles that fills my cup, and that part comes easily. People want to be in the spaces they want to. I think the running a nonprofit part has been it's been really, really hard.
I can imagine it's definitely passion based.
It is. Yeah. You have to be, and I think it goes for any nonprofit here in Central Ohio. You have to be really passionate about the work. You have to be really committed to do the work. I tell people often that there's passion and then there's commitment. You can be passionate about saving the whales, but are you really committed to doing the work that it's going to take? And same thing with this. I'm passionate and committed to doing the work to elevate and create space for Latinas here in our community. And although it's really hard work, it's rewarding to see that we're making progress and that we're continuing to grow.
Well, you know what? We all learn. I want to give you words of encouragement, but we all learn. Unless we go through it, we're never going to know. We're never going to understand. So I do want to talk about a little bit about the programming, because you do have the experience in that part, in that section specifically, right? So you as a programmer for a.k.a, what skills and tools do you think Latinas need?
It depends. It really does. I think that we do a good job of, when we get our mentees, kind of looking at, are they new to Ohio? And if they're new to Ohio, are they coming from different states in Ohio, or are they new to Ohio, like they just got here from Mexico, Cuba, whatever country that they're in, how long they've been at their jobs. Our intake form is really in depth, because we want to know, like, have they been working in the field that they desire? Do they have the education that they desire? And we try to cater the programming to the women in we still have lanes that we, topics but we want to cater the person who comes in and talks to them, to the women. I think one of the sessions that we do that is always, well, there's two that we will probably always continue to have, is financial wellness. Because I think no matter whether or not you're first generation here, or you've been here, like myself, my parents have been here and I'm here, financial wellness in Latino communities is one of those things that most people don't even talk about, let alone even begin to understand. So that is a topic that's really important to us, because we can show you the path to leadership, and we can teach you how to advocate for your salary. But if you don't know what you're doing with all of that, we're doing you a disservice if you don't know how to read a credit report. So I think decided that that's one of the sessions that we needed. In addition, salary advocacy, learning how to negotiate salaries is another session that we decided that women needed, especially since we're still behind when it comes to equal pay. The last one, October, it's just insane that with all the progress, we're still there. So a lot of our programming is based on what we see the need is. Another one that we added a couple years ago is board service. We, as in the sense that is community service, teaching Latinas that there's spaces for them in boards and committees, and why it's important that they apply to be on boards and committees here in Central Ohio, whether it's for diversity, whether it's to have their voices heard so our communities can be better served. So it evolves throughout time, but it's definitely, there are some topics that we feel passionate about, and we think that it's going to be beneficial for the ladies who go through it.
So if there was something that you would tell other nonprofits who are serving a community just like yours, who it is difficult to be in Ohio, it is difficult to be there because in true honesty, I don't know if I'll ever get to visit Ohio, right? I don't know if that's a state, unless there's a conference there that takes me there. I'm not sure if I'll ever visit. But those who move there for work and those who move there for other things, they're going to be looking for a community like yours. What would you tell them? How would you say, hey, like, one, look for the place where you're being recognized, but two, how do you keep them motivated?
Yeah, I think it's community. I think building a community, you're 100%. I'm from South Bronx, New York. That is where I was born. Ohio was not on our radar. My uncle moved here to go to college and then was like, hey, y'all, there's nothing going on here. It's a great place to raise children. My parents were like, all righty, let's go. So we find it's interesting because I tell people, like, when you ask people, like, so what brings you to Ohio, almost everyone's been here because of school, work, spouses. There's a few people who've actually been born here that but I think what I found with this organization, which I think we hear a lot with the women that come here, is community.
Okay.
It's hard to be in a city where, again, the likelihood of being the only Latina in your office, in your company, is very high. Like, we're still, we're getting up there in numbers, but there's still not enough of us that you can see someone and have a support system. So I think that what we're offering is community, some support system, whether it's a mentor or just a sisterhood that you can get together and figure out, like, where's the best place to dance salsa on a Friday night, or what's the best, Latino restaurant, or where can you find an authentic quince dress. Like, just that community is what I think ultimately we love the program, and I love that. I want to be here to help people grow in their leadership, but if they walk away and they have a small community of women that are there to support them, it makes this whole space that we navigate seem a little less lonely, because we know we have someone we can text or call, and you have shared similarities, shared struggles, and you can have someone to bounce off those ideas and concerns about. So
I like that because we spend our time between Houston, Texas, and Northwest Arkansas. Right? So it's interesting for us. And so I'm getting to understand, I'm getting to see where community plays a big part on us wanting to stay there and us wanting to thrive there also, not just exist in the space.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about you. You mentioned very briefly that you had an abundance of an experience in HR.
Yeah.
How did you end up in HR?
That was completely random. It's so random. So when I was in high school, I wanted to go to school for computer science. And then I had my daughter, and then I didn't go to school. And it was a temp job. I got a temp job when I was 21, working in a payroll department, and they're the ones who just kind of took me in, and they started showing me, like, hey, you want to learn this? I'm like, sure. Hey, do you want to learn this? I'm like, all right. I mean, it just kind of like organically grew into this thing. And I've been in HR for over 25 years now. So everything from payroll to HR, employee relations, hiring, unions, it just ended up being something that I learned throughout the years, and I'm pretty good at it, and I enjoy it. I didn't go to school for it, and I didn't grow up to be an HR rep.
So you have experience in it, right? You're in the corporate space. How would you say for somebody who is a minority who is stepping into this space where they probably are going to remain a minority for a little bit, what would you tell them and to be in a position like yours now that you have that experience with it?
Yeah. I will say that I went from government to corporate, and the role I got is because I had a sponsor, another Latina, her and I just shared stories about our jobs, our dreams, and what we were looking for. And she was in a meeting at the right place at the right time when someone told her that they needed an HR director. And she's like, I know exactly who you need to talk to. And she basically spoke my name into a room where I didn't have access to it. And so I tell people all the time that never underestimate the power of connection in your community. Like, if you have reciprocal relationships with people, let them know what you're looking for. You'll never know the spaces that they're in. I will say, as far as being the only one in a space, I think for someone my age, I've grown. I've been working since I was 20, and it's been 2 decades. And in those 2 decades, I will say that maybe there's been one other Latina or Latino in that space. I am fortunate enough that I'm in a position where I can assist with hiring and can assist with the diversity of an organization and helping grow. And so I can work on creating the space where we're not the only ones. But sometimes I tell people too, so sometimes work is not going to be your community. So make sure that you're working somewhere that has a good culture, that you don't mind working. And then you have to sometimes find your community outside of work, because not everyone is, especially here. It's just, it is. And we have, our numbers are going to grow, but it's going to take some time.
Mhm.
And then if you're in a position where you can assist with hires or speak your friends' names or, people that you know into those spaces so they can hire more diversity, do it.
I like that. I like that. I think the power of connections, right? Having somebody else advocate for you in the spaces that I'm not sure if you're going to be able to ever appear in them, right?
Right.
And that who trusts you also, right? So you also have to do your part. You also have to do your part and show interest in things like that, show interest in matters that you want to communicate and you want to be impactful with them.
Yeah.
No, but I do want to continue the conversation with this. So I found that you have found passion in other things such as crafting.
Yes.
So you're a what is the name?
I'm multifaceted.
Yes, you're multifaceted in your interest.
I could swing my camera around and showing you my wall of yarn.
I trust you because because I myself, once upon a time, like my handle used to be called Crafty Thrifter. So I know what it is when you need to like let go and let your mind just be. You immerse yourself with your hands. That's me. I immerse myself in what I'm doing, and then I start to take gratitude and I start to take it. I love what I'm building, and it makes no sense to anybody else but me. But I'm like, I like it. I don't care what they know.
Yeah. It's there's so much we have no control over that I think crafting is one of the things that you have complete control over about what is going to come out, what it's going to look like, what you want to do. It may not look great, but you did it and that's yours and you can control that environment. So yeah.
Yeah. So does your mom crochet or how did you get into it?
My grandma and my mom. So my grandma used to import, she was the abuelita that would have like your pillowcase and she would freestyle embroider flowers. She crocheted doilies. They were all over her house. And my mom went to school for art. So she's an artist. She paints. You never knew what color our front door was going to be depending on how the mood was. We could have had purple door. I don't even know. I have no idea. I mean, like she painted our basement walls. I'm like, she taught us, I don't know if people will remember Precious Moments plates, but like she taught us how to make those plates and sketch them with clay. My mom was always an artist. And so one of the great things that I loved about it is that there was always freedom of expression on how you wear your clothes, when you want to paint them, crocheting. Her outlet was crafting and art, and she taught us how to do it. And so I think I've been doing it since I was about 13 years old.
I like the fact that you let people know that all of these pieces of you, right? You're the professional, you're the person who's like want to like assist and help also in the professional mode, but you also have your own passions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people stay away from like letting people know what they do just on the the day to day, and they keep it very close to their heart. And so sometimes it does can be embarrassing to be like, oh well, no, it's because I like these little trinkets and I like to do these little things. And I am very much one of just like you, where I love to show people what I do. They have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
But why would you, because I know it's important. Why is it important for somebody like you, right, who takes leadership roles, to have everything that's only hers?
in leadership and in nonprofit, you spend a lot of your time poured into people. And I think, again, this talks about, women of color, moms, sisters, elders. We pour so much into so many other people, their well-being. We want to be impactful. We want to be supportive. And sometimes we do that out of an empty cup. And, we neglect ourselves. And what I've learned a long time ago is I can't be my best version of myself. I can't help other people if I'm not kind to myself. And I tell people this year, my one goal is to be kinder to myself. Like, what is it that do something every day that brings me joy? And it cannot be work related. It cannot be leadership related. Like, do some, whether it's taking a walk, or for me, I can't, I'm excited about this podcast, but I'm already thinking, like, what do I want to sit on the couch today and work on? Like, what do I want to crochet while I watch TV? Like, I want people to understand too that it's really important to take care of ourselves. We do this work because we're passionate about it. It is impactful. It does change the community, but we end up being burnt out. We end up being resentful. We end up being tired. We neglect our health, and none of those things are good for us. Unfortunately, being in HR has made me understand that with all things, we can be replaced. As in the corporate world, in nonprofit, but to our friends and family and people who love us, we're not replaceable. And we've got to keep the bigger picture. That's the big picture. We've got to continue to take care of ourselves so we can be here for the people that we love and the people who love us.
Thank you. Yeah, we do sometimes need those reminders that, in the spaces of other, because they have to keep moving. They have to keep growing.
It's not personal. Like I will pass the baton on to somebody else in, however many years, and the organization to keep growing. And I don't want to have put all of me into it where now there's nothing left for me and I don't have an identity outside of that, or I'm too burnt out that I can't even enjoy my daughter's volleyball game, or, I've got to take care of my health so I can make sure I'm there for other people.
I hope people really heard that loud and clear. I truly, truly, truly hope so.
Yeah, I think there's a movement with self-care, and I think there is. I think that there's, and this is why I started a monthly meetup of crafters. So like there's knitters and crocheters. Right before COVID, I was like, you know what? I need to be around other people who can obsess about yarn as much as I do and not feel weird. And so I started doing a monthly meetup, and now we have about 30 people who show up every month. Whether I'm there or not, they still show up. And so they meet up, and it's a great way for people to understand that, not only is it good for your mental health, it's good for, the community, it's good for just to be around people and not always talk about work, not always talk about the community and trying to save the world. Let's just make knots out of yarn.
I like that. Okay. So before I let you go, I do want to ask you just a few questions before I usually lead it off with one last question. So as you think about your challenges professionally and personally, how did you overcome them, and what were the lessons learned?
I don't know if I've overcome my challenges.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that as a woman in leadership and as a woman who's running a nonprofit, it goes back to it's being difficult. It's, you've got to meet with donors, and you've got to convince them that my nonprofit is the one that they need to invest in. You've got to get people to be supportive of you. There's so many obstacles and so many challenges. I will say what I'm trying to work on is trying to figure out what my goal is. Like how, and I listened to a friend talk to one of her friends last night, and their comment was, like, what is your vision of success? And I have to determine what that looks like for me, because I think we get so caught up in like trying to do it all, and I can't do it all. I am a one woman team with a few volunteers that helps us, but we can't do it all. And I've got to come up with, like, for 2024, what is my vision of success? Like if I've made it here, this has been a successful year, be okay. I think we push ourselves too much to just, okay, we did this, next. We did, and we don't take time to say, this is my vision of success. I've reached this goal. Let's sit here and be happy. Let's sit here and celebrate. I mean, for the quince, I think that it was the first fundraiser I've ever thrown in my entire life. I am not at all a fundraiser. And I walked into this room and I was like, there's over 130 people in this room. And I was like, I did this. These people are here because this is a vision. I did this. Our volunteers did this. And it was just like taking a moment to be like, this is great. Let's enjoy this moment instead of picking apart the 9 million things that we think it's wrong. And I know that sounds like rambling, but it's kind of the same as like, figure out what my version of success is going to be for this year. And then when I reach it, be happy about it and allow myself time and energy to celebrate in it, because I feel like if we don't do that, we're always chasing some better version. We're always chasing more. We're always trying to push forward, and that's fine. But again, when we go back to taking care of ourselves, are we setting realistic expectations for ourselves, or we're burning ourselves out? So I don't know if that answers that question.
No, it does. It does. It does, because what you're saying is reflection on what you think the challenges are, and then knowing if you overcome them to be able. No, you did. You answered, and very gracefully, might I add. But I one last question before I let you go, because I can have you on here forever. Do you consider yourself a leader? Why or why not?
I would say that if you'd asked me last year, I'd be like, no, I'm not a leader. I barely know what I'm doing. So, but I will say this year, I do. And the only reason I feel like I am is because people have told me they think that they believe I'm a leader, or that they appreciate my leadership. And I'm not sure that that's the appropriate answer or the right reason to think I'm a leader. But I think sometimes, again, it goes back with like trying to be humble. I'm like, no, I'm not a leader. I am I'm just a servant. I'm just here to serve the community. But I think this is the first year that I've kind of recognized that I've got to be careful about what I say, what I do, how I navigate a room, how I navigate situations, because people are watching. And I try really hard to be there for women who want to meet up for coffee, for advice. And the text messages that I get back, or the emails I get back, I think reaffirming that they do see me as a leader. They do see me as someone that's going to help them pave the way, or this program, continue this program. So I would say yes. I think people believe I'm a leader, and I try my best to be somebody that can represent our organization and our community in the best light, and try my best to be in the spaces that are going to elevate us and provide us more opportunities.
You're right. There's always room to learn how to be a leader and how to be a better leader.
Yeah.
But thank you for the conversation today, Lillian. Tell us where we can find ella, or tell us how we can also find you, or maybe want to see your crocheting. Where can we find that?
Yeah. So our website is ayacolumbus.org. And on that website, you can find our Facebook and our Instagram, and find more about our program and our application for folks who are in Central Ohio. And then my LinkedIn is, I think it's just Lillian Morales-Laster, maybe. I'll give you all the information. But yeah, and it's also, I think it's, you know what? I don't know what my Instagram is. So my shop is called My Hobby Shop, and I'm on Instagram. So, and then you can see all my random crochet stuff there.
As a multifaceted woman, I take very much interest in what you do. Whatever it is that you want to share. Of course, there's like a lot of women who don't share the things, and they keep it very personal because it's their passion. It's the thing, whatever reason. I don't judge. Pero Thank you so much for taking the time to talk. You know what? Hold on, wait. Is there something that you would like to mention or talk to us about that I did not ask?
I can't think of anything.
Oh, good.
I
All
think
right. I did my job.
the conversation was really good with the questions. They were like, oh, these are really good questions. No, yeah, I think it's awesome.
Well, bueno, thank you so much. And with that, we'll see you next time. Bye.
What did you think of the conversation? If you enjoyed what you heard, let us know in the comments. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you for listening to the Latina Leadership Podcast, and we will see you next time.